Hey college football fans, episode 32 of Walk It Off with Chappy, and today we're going to talk a little bit about college football preview magazines, and I'm going to start with the first one that came out, the first one that I purchased this year, and that's Lindy's college football magazine. Props to Lindy Davis. One thing I like about it is it syncs up nicely with the 24/7 Sports Network, College Football Network. Good podcast to listen to, the Cover 3 podcast. Shout out to Chip Patterson and Tom Fernelli and Bud Elliott and Danny Cannell. Those guys do a pretty good job covering college football. But back to the magazine, one thing I like about it, other than the fact that it's usually the first out, which doesn't always translate to be necessarily the most accurate, and they're kind of hamstrung by time, but I like their feature when they're previewing a team. They give their good news, bad news, and then their call. So trying to keep things even keel and looking at things that are positive and negative for each team, because it's not all good and it's certainly not all bad. I like how they scope the nation and give some of the big stories that are hitting college football in this upcoming season, and their feature articles by Dennis Dodd, the Dodd father, also featured on the 24/7 Sports Network and the CBS Sports Network. I like how in the back they do their look back 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, and they look at the top 5 finish in the AP poll 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc., as well as the Heisman finalists. So it's kind of a cool walk back through memory lane. If you're an FCS Division II, Division III college football junkie, they do give a little bit of coverage there, which seems to be a little bit more in depth than the other preview mags. When they're looking at teams, they give their overall ranking at the top, so you'll see where they're projected by Lindy's within their conference, but also in the grand scheme of things. So you might be the second best team in the Sun Belt East, but then it kind of gives their relative ranking to everyone else in college football. I like how they point out the MVP and emerging stars. So what we on the CFP College Football Podcast talk about is the watch me player, as well as top newcomer. So who's somebody who's either coming in from the transfer portal or a top recruit. And typically they stick to really just the Power 5 schools and maybe group of 5 teams or programs that could crack the top 25, top 30. I like how they give the 5-year winning trends. So what does a program look like over the last 5 years in terms of winning percentage? As well as their betting trends. So against the spread, are they a team that you can take to the bank and things will work out financially well for you, or do they break a lot of hearts and wallets in the process? I like how they give a key number, so something to focus on, something from last year that can transfer over to this year, whether it's scoring trends, whether it's offensive or defensive numbers, whether it's penalties, whether it's red zone efficiency. They will throw out a key stat or two, a key number that is good, and that's really the only one of the few suggestions I would give to Mr. Lindy Davis is maybe throwing in a few more analytics. It's big in college sports now. Analysts like myself like to look beyond just what is at surface value, and I want to see, and other college football fans want to see, what do the numbers suggest? What are the trends? What do we see that we can have hope for in the upcoming season relative to last year, and factoring in who they have coming back as well as maybe who's leaving. So really my only suggestion, but again, kudos to Lindy's College Football Preview Magazine. It's been on newsstands, so go out and buy it if you've got the income and the needs to do so. It's a good read. It's a good way to keep a pulse on college football in the upcoming season. So thanks for following, and shoot me with comments, suggestions, questions. I'm Chappy, and this is what I know.